And these postmodern neo-Marxists think that they can just change the world. Yeah, well, good luck, pal. See where that gets you. I probably shouldn't be making fun of Jordan Peterson. He's not in a good way at the moment, but he was we're talking about postmodern neo-Marxism, like what that would actually look like. So, I went through a bit of a Jordan Peterson phase. Whenever I go through my favorites playlist on YouTube, there's still like a good layer of Jordan Peterson videos down there when I sort of started getting sucked into that a little bit. Because, I'm someone who's trying to self-actualize, so, some of it was kind of interesting. But Peterson's one of those people where, you sort of turn away from your screen when you listen to one of his lectures, and you turn back and you realize he's just not making any goddamn sense. And you understood it for weeks, and all of a sudden... Anyway, I'm not actually talking about Jordan Peterson. We're here to talk about Marx. And the present year. It's current year. Why are we not updating Marxism? 21st century Marxism. Let's get back to that, because I feel like the last couple of videos haven't been addressing that whole premise directly as much. So let's talk about 21st century Marxism and what that might look like. And I actually think that postmodern neo-Marxism as a concept is not such a bad idea. I mean, obviously Jordan Peterson's idea that back in the 60s during the Soviet Union, the Marxists had to go underground and find something else to do, and so they went and did the postmodernisms, I think is completely ridiculous. But let's just look at the term postmodern neo-Marxism and just break it down a little bit. So neo-Marxism, new Marxism, I mean, if it expands to include discussions around social equality and the attention economy, and just gets updated for the neoliberal hellscape that we find ourselves in, then let's just call it neo-Marxism, because it's Marxism, but it's kind of new. We polished it up a little. So cool, done, sorted. If you don't understand how that works, you haven't been watching the series. But then the postmodern part, a lot of people have said that postmodernists and Marxists don't align because Marxists believe in stuff and postmodernists don't, because they just deconstruct everything, and so therefore they don't get along very well. Because if you do a postmodernism to Marxism, then it's bad. But if you do a postmodernism to anything, it's kind of bad, because it just, except maybe art, because art disappeared up its own asshole a long time ago. Seriously, those support artists. But I think it is important, though, to look at how postmodernism has actually influenced leftist thinking and helped us to mature at least to the point that we are now. And when I say leftist, I am mostly talking about the social justice side of things, because that's the part that has utilized postmodernism a bit more. So if we bring social justice into Marxism through the can't have economic equality without social justice angle, which if you need to be convinced there, then what you can see a little bit is you can see that more social equality has been achieved by deconstructing old models of understanding how that stuff worked and then reconstructing them into something that more inclusively represents the reality. White supremacy falls apart if you really delve into what is race, and do this full deconstruction of look into it's not just your skin color, because you can have albino black people, and it's not just where you're from, and it's not this and it's not that, and there's not really any essential thing that makes you white, for example, and we're seeing similar things happen with gender. By the way, I've got a series coming up which is planning on doing just that. It's going to be a very different format to this. I'm looking forward to it. So we can see that pattern of achieving more equality through deconstructing old systems and then reconstructing them into new ones that still honor the elements of the original systems that actually did work, because that way it's a lot easier to actually implement, because then all the stuff that already exists you can kind of repurpose for a much more nuanced and inclusive version of the old thing. I hope I'm making sense. And so that to me is really what postmodern neo-Marxism should be. Of course, that whole process of reconstruction is not actually postmodern. That would be post-postmodern. Because modernism was born out of liberalism, and liberalism sort of said that no, we can find the answer to everything through science. There are answers to all your questions. There are institutions that stand for things and mean things and have justifiable authority. Then postmodernism went, you guys caused some wars, like some really, really bad ones, and some genocides and stuff, so we kind of don't believe you so much. So then you get all the existentialists and everything, and that's when the deconstruction comes in. But then through that deconstruction, nothing means anything anymore, and that is terrible, because that sort of means that the people who are achieving things are not the people who are holding to socially held values, but people who are willing to be opportunistic. And so what we're seeing now, on the left at least, is that reconstruction of the old systems, but having gone through the process of deconstruction into something that is much more inclusive and nuanced. And so really, postmodern neo-Marxism, to me, would be Marxism updated to include everything that we've learned and begun to internalize, and all the things that we see differently, having gone through this process of postmodernism and now entering into post-postmodernism. So it's really using postmodernism as a weapon to dismantle unjust structures, because it's all very intangible. And this is one of the limits of traditional Marxism, is that it focuses very much on the material. And in the age of the internet, the material is less important than it used to be, because brand is more important than body in a lot of respects, certainly in most markets. Because of that, it means that our approaches need to be a bit more ephemeral, a bit more intellectual and conceptual, which is why postmodernism is such a powerful tool to use for creating new egalitarian structures. And this is where there's a bit of danger, though, because the Fash also like to deconstruct things, except the difference is that what they build in its place are paranoid conspiracy theories that are going to create very limited power and hierarchical things. And of course, the only way to stop people doing that and to construct more egalitarian models instead is through spiritual change. So all that is to say, postmodern neo-Marxism does not exist in the way that Jordan Peterson understands it, but I wish that it existed in the way that I can envision it. So go out there and deconstruct some stuff. And one new structure that is being built in the place of old, more hegemonic power structures is Patreon, which I have one. If you want to support me, you get sent a digital copy of all the art that I make for as little as $1 a month, because I don't want income to be a restriction on who can access my art. If you want to see some of my art without having to pay for it, I've got a website linked down in the D-box, jamescfinlay.com. And yeah, the series is probably going to keep going. So if you want more videos like this, as well as some other stuff that I do, if you want to hear about that series on gender that I've got coming up, then subscribe. Like this video and leave a comment to let the algorithm know that leftist content is awesome. And yeah, look after people, and until next time, much love.